Okay, gentlemen, it's 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is Monday, June the 28th, 6:30 p.m. And this is the regular meeting of the Municipal Council for the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal for the month of June. I understand we have some folks from the public joining us tonight, and welcome you, whoever it is. And I just hope that the connection remains stable. I just want to tell you ahead of time that in our previous experience with individuals joining by Zoom, we have had interruptions and disconnections of the service, and that may happen tonight. If it does, of course, the video recording keeps going, and the meeting will be posted to the Township YouTube channel a few days after this meeting. But hopefully, sent via Zoom, hopefully the internet will remain stable during the course of the meeting. So with those few introductory remarks, I'm going to proceed to item 2 on the agenda, which is approval of the agenda as presented. Deputy Mayor, I think you have that motion.
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that Municipal Council approves the agenda as presented.
Very much. The motion is on the floor. Discussion, if any. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving now to item 3, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures here this evening? The minutes will reflect that there were no disclosures of pecuniary interest. Moving to item number 4 on the agenda, which is delegations and presentations. We have none this evening, so I can go directly to item number 5, which is the minutes of previous council meetings. We have 2. First, for the regular meeting on May the 25th, Councillor Hunter, please.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Deschamps that the Municipal Council received and approved the minutes of the regular meeting dated May 25th, 2021.
Okay, now, are there any errors or omissions in the minutes of the May 25th meeting? I will deal with business arising at the next item on the agenda. Looking for errors and omissions only at this point. Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. And now proceeding to the special council meeting, which was held on June the 14th. Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councilor receives and approves the minutes of the special meeting dated June 14th, 2021.
Thank you very much. Now, are there any errors or omissions in the minutes of the meeting of June the 14th? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Now, moving to item number 6 on the agenda. Does any member of council have any business arising or questions from the minutes of those 2 previous council meetings? Hearing none, I'm about to move on. And so item number 7 on the agenda, which is approval of various committee meetings which were held during the month. And I might say, just for the benefit of the folks in the gallery, that when recommendations come forward from the committees, those recommendations generally appear as action items on the next item of the agenda and get council approval at that point. So the first is the Public Library Board meeting of April the 29th. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that Municipal Council receives the minutes of the Public Library Board meeting dated April 29th, 2021. And Mr. Mayor, just before I hand this over, the Friends of the Library have asked me to make a presentation or a discussion tonight, and it goes this way. On May the 7th, 2021, from the desk of Mr. Paul Charlebois, QC, that's Queen's Counselor, so he's a lawyer. I am pleased to endorse a check for, now remember, this is to the Friends, not to the library, for $10,000 payable to the Friends of the Cardinal Public Library. I hope this helps the library serve the people of Cardinal, especially the children. And I will say that it does say here it is for use in Cardinal. However, because the two libraries, both Cardinal and Spencerville, overlap in many things, this is not going to be solely used within the Cardinal Library, but will also move along to assist things in Spencerville as well. So that's the news I have, and like I say, the Friends are very ecstatic about this donation, and so they should.
Yes, and the motion is on the floor. I'm going to call the question on the motion and then just make a comment. So first of all, are there any errors or omissions or questions for Councillor Councillor Cameron with regard to the minutes of the Public Library Board meeting of April 29th? So no questions. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And so, yes, Councillor, if you would, through you back to the library board, and hopefully through the Friends of the Library back to Mr. Charlebois. It's not very often that donations of this size are made to the library. So we do want to recognize that donation and thank Mr. Charlebois for his benevolence.
That has also been done, but we privilege that from you, Mr.
And so maybe to the CAO and the clerk, if you would prepare a letter of thanks and recognition. I would like to send a letter from the mayor to Mr. Charlebois. I'm sure that Councillor Hunter can provide his address, and somebody will draft the letter. I'll sign it when I'm in sometime.
Councillor Cameron, Mr. Mayor.
Well, sorry, Councillor.
We know.
We know how it's gonna go. Did I misspeak twice now?
Yes, you
In
did.
the same sentence? Almost.
Well,
In the same paragraph.
no,
My apologies. All right, so now I'm going to item number 7B, which is the Port Management Committee meeting of May the 19th. Councillor Hunter, please.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, and the municipal council received the minutes of the Park Management Committee meeting dated May 19th, 2021.
Thank you very much. Now, to start with, are there any errors or omissions in these minutes? I know we're only received, the Port Management Committee approves their own minutes, but are there any questions from these minutes? I guess I better ask it that way. So hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor?
I,
Motion is carried. Right, now I'm going to 7C, which is committee of the whole meeting, community development, Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
It's fine. Excuse me. My Councilor John Hunter, that municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the committee of the whole community development meeting dated June 7th, 2021.
Okay, are there any questions here? Errors or omissions? I think I noticed one change that should be correct.
Thought I had one, but I forgot the admitted. That's the word. Couldn't find it.
I'm just going to check before I call the question here. I did have a. Oh, I know what the question was. In those minutes on page 5, there was a motion that came forward on page 38 of 239. The motion was that committee recommend that council, then it has the words by resolution. Well, those two words by resolution need to come out of there. So I'm going to ask that that it just be corrected. I'm not gonna call for a change to the motion at all, just ask that that be dropped. But more importantly, on clause number 1 of that resolution, accept an undertaking from the property owner that the required road dedication will be completed at the township's request should future road improvements take place as satisfactory for the purpose of fulfilling the condition of road widening in the site plan control agreement for 12 Riverview Crescent, and that the road dedication will be completed within 60 days of the township's formal request. Now that recommendation was carried, but it was, as I recall from the discussion, contingent upon receiving a letter from the proponent's solicitor that they would make that undertaking. So my question to the CAO is, did the solicitor's letter arrive? Do we have that in writing from the solicitor?
Mr. Mayor, we do have that letter of undertaking from the property owner, if I'm not mistaken.
Not from his solicitor?
I believe the discussion was not requiring it to be a solicitor's undertaking, but that the property owner's formal letter indicating that they would dedicate that land.
If required, if required. Okay, all right. So, all right, so we do have we do have,
We do.
Is it not in the page before? The last paragraph on page 37. Is that
on page 1?
page 37 of 161? Page 4 of that? It was noted that the applicant's lawyer has provided a solicitor's undertaking on behalf of the corporation stating should the extra 1 and 2 feet be required for occupation of the owner of the establishment.
A little bit louder, please.
It was noted that the applicant's lawyer has provided a solicitor's undertaking on behalf of the corporation stating should the extra 1 and 2 feet be required for road expansion, the owner of the establishment will commit to deeding the land over to the township if and when requested.
Yes, so that was there, but it was not part of the motion that it be from the lawyer. And I think the discussion must have gone on to the point where we agreed to accept the letter from the owner rather than from his lawyer. Am I correct in that?
Mr. Mayor, that is my understanding.
Okay, because the minutes don't reflect that. And I think the discussion that the deputy mayor has just noted did indicate that that was the direction in which things were moving at that point in the meeting. So what do you want to do here, deputy mayor?
I think it's clear, right? We're good? Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay, we're gonna accept it the way it is then. Okay, all right, and so now the minutes are on the table for further discussion. Hearing none. Oh, another question, Councilor Cameron.
Yes, on page 35, the delegation that was here, has there been any further feedback from the delegation?
So to the CEO.
Mr. Mayor, I do not believe there has been much more follow-up following that presentation.
Okay, they were clearly invited to do so.
Yes.
Okay, so back again to the minutes, dealing with the minutes. No further question about the call to question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, now I'm moving on to item number 7D, which is Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance meeting, June the 14th. Councilor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Cameron that the municipality council receives and approves the minutes of the committee of the whole administration and finance meeting dated June 14th, 2021.
Thank you very much. Now, are there any errors or omissions? Chair is looking for discussion. Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Minutes are accepted as presented. Now at item number 7E on the agenda, which is Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities Committee. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you very much. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities dated June 21st, 2021.
Very much. Discussion, questions, if any? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so moving on now to the action and information items that are coming forward from those committees, quite a number this evening. Item number 8A is concerns an application for severance. Councillor Hunter.
Move myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the municipal council recommend in favor of severance B 47-21 and B 48-21 Doby Road, JF Doby and Sons Limited, with the condition that a zoning bylaw amendment is obtained to prohibit further future non-agricultural use, including residential use on retained lot and allow reduced frontage of 17 meters on the 7th parcel as recommended by Committee of the Whole, Community Development.
Thank you very much. Further discussion on this issue, if any? Hearing none. Calling the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And now to item number 8B, a request to reconsider a road widening for Shaggy's Fries. Councillor Dillaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and second by council. The municipality council accept undertaking from the property owner that required road dedication will be completed as the township requests should future road improvements take place as satisfactory for the purpose of fulfilling the condition of the road widening in the site plan control agreement for 12 Riverview Crescent bylaw 2020-44. And 2, the road dedication will be completed within 60 days of the township formal request as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Community Development.
So back to actioning that item that was discussed at the CDC meeting. And we have the clarification with regard to the who was going to provide the undertaking. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I'm about to call a question on that motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And now I'm at item number 8C on the agenda, which is the adoption of a community safety and well-being plan. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you very much. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that municipal council approve the community safety and well-being plan as presented and direct staff to post the plan to the township website and have a printed copy available for review at the municipal office as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Community Development.
Thank you very much. And lots of discussion around the community development plan. Any further discussion on that matter? Hearing none. I'm about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Now just give me a moment to get the paperwork in order here. I think I'm at 8D on the agenda, which is community grants, Centennial 67 funding reallocation. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you again. It moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh that municipal council authorize Centennial 67 Public School Parent Council to reallocate the $500 granted under the Township 2021 Community Grants and Donations Program from the upgraded water fountain to the outdoor kindergarten music wall as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And to the last item coming forward from the committees, item 8E, the Adelaide sewage pumping station spare pump issue. Council,
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor John Hunter, that municipal council directs staff to contract Xylem to rebuild the damaged west pump at a cost of $27,009.10 plus non-rebated HST, cover the unbudgeted expense through the Cardinal Wastewater Reserve Fund.
thank you very much. Any further discussion on that matter? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. I'm turning now then to item number 9 on the agenda, which is acceptance of the correspondence packages. Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Karen that Municipality Council received the correspondence listings for the following dates as previously circulated: June 1st, 2021, June 7th, 2021, June 14th, 2021, and June 21st, 2021.
All right, thank you very much. And by way of explanation, all correspondence directed to council or members of council or the mayor are compiled into packages by weekly packages, which are circulated to all members of council. All members of council have access to them on the dates that are mentioned. And any member of any particular piece of correspondence forward for further attention at a committee meeting, if they so are so inclined. So we have four correspondence packages here tonight. Any further discussion or anything arising from those correspondence packages? Hearing nothing, about to call a question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And those correspondence packages are officially recognized as having been received. And now I'm on to item number 10 on the agenda, which is approval of the municipal disbursements for the month of June. Councillor Hunter,
Move
please.
myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. That municipal council approved the payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated as follows. Report dated May 25th, 2021-55, $111,481.72. Report date May 31st, 2021-59, $147,247.17. Report date June 14th, 2021-65, $1,434,840.92. Report dated June 16th, 2021-66, $201,719.18. Report dated June 23rd, 2021-69, $189,388.11 for a total of $2,084,677.10.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And again, all of these all of these municipal invoice packages were circulated to members of council. All members of council have access to the records and can ask any question they deem necessary from the treasurer or from the CAO. And having heard no issues raised this evening, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. The checks will now be signed and released. And no money is released from the municipality without approval of these disbursement sheets. And now I'm on to various bylaws that are coming forward from committee items and discussions that took place during the month. And just by way of explanation, I'll say that bylaws are all subject to 3 readings. The first reading is called introduction in principle, and the second reading is called it's beyond principle, it's to the meat of the matter, And those two readings are generally held together, and if those two readings receive unanimous approval at first and second reading, the bylaw proceeds to third reading at the same meeting. So the first one is the site plan control agreement, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Council Karen that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to authorize execution of a site plan control agreement with Joan Allen and Victor Allen, and this shall constitute the first, second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. About to call the question on first and second reading of this bylaw, which will approve a site plan control agreement for the erection of a tower. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried, and it's carried unanimously. It can proceed to third reading. Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by John Hunter that the bylaw to authorize execution site plan control agreement with Joan Allen and Victor Allen be now read the third time, finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2021-35.
Thank you very much. Third reading on that bylaw. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And now I'm on bylaw number 11B, which is approval of an RBC credit facilities agreement, and Councillor Hunter, please.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the mover be granted leave to authorize and execution of agreement for credit and lease facilities with the Royal Bank of Canada, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. Discussion here, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion receives, first and second reading motion receives unanimous approval, and so the bylaw can proceed to third reading. Councillor?
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that bylaw to authorize execute of an agreement of credit and lease facility with the Royal Bank of Canada be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, number 2021-36.
Thank you very much. Discussion on third. Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. And just by way of explanation, these are what they call banking agreements. They're updated on a regular basis with the Royal Bank, which is our banking institution. And it's not only updating the agreement, but reflecting a new credit facility which we put in place. And moving now then to bylaw number 8C, which is a bylaw to amend the tax rate bylaw. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to replace Schedule A of bylaw 2021-20, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of tax rates and to provide for penalty and interest in default of payment. And this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. Discussion of any? And just by way of explanation on Schedule A, which sets the various tax rates over a number of tax classes, and I think we have about 25 or 30 tax classes, and there are 4 tax rates for each class, all of them being 7- and 8-digit numbers, and there were a couple of minor errors, and we're just correcting those errors. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of first and second, unanimously. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh that a bylaw to replace Schedule A of bylaw 2021-20, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of tax rates and to provide for penalty and interest in default of payment, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2021-38.
Thank you very much. Calling the question on third reading. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Small error will be corrected, and before the tax bills go up, before the final tax bills go up. All right, now we're at item 11D, which is the fire service fees bylaw. And if passed, this bylaw will introduce some changes to the various fees that we collect relative to the fire department. And Councillor Dillabaugh, I think you have the motion on first and second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to impose fees and charges for services and activities provided or done by the fire department of the township of Riversburg Cardinal. And this shall constitute the first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried and it is unanimous. It can proceed to third reading, Councillor.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hunter that the bylaw to impose fees and charges for services and activities provided or done by the fire department of the township of Riversburg Cardinal be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, numbered 2021-39.
Thank you very much. Calling the question on third reading. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And just before I go on, and in the interest of full disclosure, I will say, and if this is a public meeting for the public, the council will be introducing a $10 fee for fire permits effective January the 1st, 2022. We do have a number of fees that we impose relative to fire services. It's a lengthy schedule. Very seldom do we impose those fees, except in cases of serious neglect on the part of the individual causing or deemed to have caused the fire. But the bylaw is now passed and new fees will come into effect. I think some of them immediately and others on the 1st of January, which is it, Mr. CAO? Some of them effective with the passage of the bylaw.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, all those will be excluding the burn permit fee will be upon passing of bylaw
And the permit will be effective January 1.
in 2022, correct?
Right. And just again, while we're on this topic, I want to say that to get a fire permit with the township is a very easy process. It can all be done online very quickly and payment can be accepted, I think, through PayPal or a number of other mechanisms. All right, moving onward then to the next bylaw. And the next bylaw, if passed, will approve the collective agreement recently negotiated between our union and our township. And I'm calling Deputy Mayor Deschamps to bring that motion forward.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that the mover be granted leave to authorize the execution of a collective agreement with the Canadian Union of Public Employees, Local 2311-02, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much. And discussion, if any? Councillor Cameron.
Yes, just for clarification through you to CAO, if you would just look on page 212 of your package. Article 1201, Public Works, and the paragraph is B, and I would just like to ask, it reads, when 8 hours have been worked or work is finished, the employer may be, the employee may be asked to quit for the day, but it shall be the employee's option to finish then or to work until the end of his regular workday. My question is going to ask, who would be the one to ask the employee to leave for the day? Would that be his direct supervisor?
Through the mayor, that is correct. That would be the supervisor.
Okay, so it's totally at his discretion, or would be left to his discretion.
So the supervisor may ask the employee to leave, but it is in the employee's discretion whether they like to remain to the end of the regular day. Yes.
Yes, okay. And I just have one other, Mr. Mayor, on page 225. Just gotta get there, excuse me. Yes, under, page 225, under Public Works heading, it has lead hand and lead hand rural. I'm just a little confused by that, because I thought Public Works all started at one department or one area now, one facility, and then went from there. So if I could just have an explanation on the two, what the difference would be.
So, thank you. Through the mayor, the lead rural position is currently not active.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. And just one other, I'd just like to know on, just down a little bit from that, you've got a equipment level 1, equipment operator 2 and 3. Now, the 2 and 3, I see the scale, the wage scale there is in bold. Is there any reason for that?
Through the mayor, the bold areas would be the updates to the previous agreement.
Thank you.
Two new levels.
Two.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no other questions. Excited.
Anybody else have any questions with this collective agreement? Okay, hearing none. Now let's just see. Oh, sorry.
So, sorry, Mr. Mayor, there are a couple of very minor housekeeping issues that we look to correct. If you look at Appendix A,
Page reference.
which would be page 225
Go ahead.
of the package, and it's just that it's until December 31st, 2020, and that should be until 2024.
Oh,
So,
to December 31st, 2024.
correct.
All right, so I'm glad to get that corrected before the bylaw is passed, or else we have to come back and amend the bylaw. So how do I deal with that? I'm making the change on my copies. Is there an official copy someplace that can be initialed before the bylaw is signed?
We can certainly have the updated copy with the bylaw for signature.
Okay, so to members of council, the bylaw that's signed, this appendix will show that it's the December 31st, 2024. Okay, thank you. That clarifies that. Glad you caught that. Okay, so now I'm calling the question, I believe, on first and second reading. Those in favor of first and second reading?
Aye.
That motion is carried unanimously, and it can proceed to third reading. It's the deputy mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that the mover be granted leave to authorize the execution of a collective agreement with the Canadian Union of Public Employees Local 2311-02, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 21-40.
Okay, thank you very much. And calling the question on third reading. Those in favor? Motion is carried again unanimously. And just a comment from the chair. I'd like to extend my thanks to our negotiating committee, the CAO, Mr. Steve Williams, our lawyer, and Councillor Hunter and Deputy Mayor Deschamps for the, and by the way, the treasurer as well, I believe, was involved on our side of the negotiating table, and extend a similar thanks to the union representatives on the other side for their ability to reach this agreement. The definition of a good agreement is one which neither side are completely happy with, and I'm sure that description would fit this agreement. And but in any case, we have an agreement in place, and I understand, is it true, Mr. CAO, that the union has already ratified the agreement? Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
And so tonight's passage of this bylaw, with tonight's passage of this by the council, also ratifies the agreement. And so the agreement is in place until December the 31st, 2024. So congratulations to all involved, and thank you. And so now I'm moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 11F, which is within the township, and Councillor Hunter.
Move myself, second by Councillor Dilba, that mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to authorize the dissolving of the ward system of electoral representative and institute an at-large system of electoral representative in the township of Edgeworth Cardinal. This shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, discussion if any on this bylaw. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, first of all, first of all, I'd like to, and secondly, I will reiterate what I said at the last meeting. I do not believe that this is up to 5 members of council sitting here making this decision that is so important throughout the township. So I will, I cannot support this motion.
Okay, so you'll be voting against it on first and second reading.
I will, yes.
All right, any further discussion on this item? Councillor Hunter.
I just reiterate that I believe we have 5 members of council here that was elected by the public to make the decisions for the township of what we have to do to make things the best we can for the township. This at-large vote has been brought up at every election for the last 3 elections, and councillors have been continuously asked when they're going to get rid of the ward system. And this is why this motion was brought forward. I think it's only right that every resident and ratepayer in the township has the right to vote for every member that's sitting at the council. We all have to vote to represent the whole township. So it's only right that the whole township votes for you.
Okay, I don't think we need to go back and forth here.
No, we
If
really
we have a-
don't. I just wanted to say that Councillor Hunter does put up an extremely strong comment with that. And yes, for the most part, he is quite accurate. However, I just wanted to say that the amount of people that have expressed non-interest in this to me has made me look at it at a different venue.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'm just gonna, because this is a recorded vote, and I'm going to be voting against first and second reading. I do want to make just a comment. And let me say, first of all, that I do recognize Councillor Hunter's comments. And because that side of the argument is certainly a strong argument. However, I've received a number of calls from a number of people that have accused us of jamming it through, so to speak. And by withholding unanimous support at first and second reading, this will provide another 30 days before it comes to third reading, so that those people that have expressed adverse comment to the concept can have an opportunity to influence council members or the mayor or the staff in whatever way they deem fit and necessary. So in Councillor Hunter or Councillor Cameron, because I don't want to create the impression that we're running this through inside of one meeting without adequate and sufficient knowledge to the public. So and I do recognize arguments on both sides of the issue. But one of the things that's been raised with me is, why wasn't this a ballot issue? But the answer to that, of course, is Councillor Hunter's argument, which are well received. So I'm about to call the question on first and second reading. I'm going to call it aloud. Councillor Cameron, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Dillabaugh, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councillor Hunter, how do you vote?
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Deschamps, how do you vote?
Yay.
And the mayor votes nay. So the motion is carried. The bylaw will proceed to third reading at the July meeting of the council. So I'm not going to call for fourth reading tonight, Councillor Hunter, but I'll ask the staff to ensure that Councillor Hunter reserves the right to bring forward third reading at the next meeting. Thank you very much. And I'm about to move on. And the next item on the agenda is the CAO's administrative update. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get the motion to approve the CAO's administrative update. I'm going to get that motion on the table. Councillor Cameron, if you would, please.
Yes, thank you very much. And it's moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. The Municipal Council receives the CAO's administrative report as presented.
Thank you very much. And I'm not going to call the question on the motion until after the CAO was presented its report and councillors had an opportunity to ask questions to the CAO. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just start with a couple verbal items that have just sort of arose today. One is that the well water sampling program is canceled for this week due to Canada Day. With the timing, typically the samples are picked up Wednesday and analyzed at the lab on Thursday, but with Thursday being a holiday, we've canceled that and we'll start again on Tuesday, July 6th.
Thank you very much.
And also,
So before you go on, what is the response to that program? It's a while since we've asked you. How many samples are we receiving and forwarding on?
I want to say last week was a relatively good week with 4 or 5 samples being forwarded on. Sometimes we will, on occasion, we'll have none, and others will have 1 or 2. So I would say it's still a worthwhile program to offer on a monthly basis.
Okay, however, there is a cost to that program
There is.
for those 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, or 3 folks that are submitting samples. So I think at some point we'll have to evaluate whether it's an effective and efficient offering. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not sure if you were planning to touch on this with the mayor's report, but I just wanted to update on the OPP detachment board
Yes.
proposal.
Yes, if you would, please.
Okay, thank you. I can certainly advise that the proposal that came forward on June 14th at this council and passed up by resolution has been submitted to the Solicitor General. 4 out of the 5 municipalities that passed a resolution in support. The Township of Augusta did not pass a resolution in support. And at this stage, not sure if they will be submitting a separate proposal. And from my understanding, they have not indicated an alternative proposal to the one being submitted. So
And I believe the deadline is the 28th. Is it
I
not?
believe my understanding is that the 28th is the deadline today.
Which is the date. Okay. Thank you very much. I was going to touch on that, but I'll pass it by. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the report provided in the package, just want to indicate that the annual performance reviews will start to take place in July. And as you're probably aware of, we do have some senior staff members that have taken a few weeks off. Well deserved. With respect to the zoning bylaw review, some open houses have been, dates have been scheduled, which will be August 4th at the Cardinal Legion from 3 to 5 p.m. South Edwardsburg Recreation Center from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And on August 5th at the municipal office from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and virtually via Zoom from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Respect to the David Street appeal, the Ontario Land Tribunal has set a virtual appeal hearing date for July 21st, 2021, and our solicitor and planners will be in attendance. Commuter transit pilot project. The project framework is progressing well. Still some details to finalize, and plan will to bring the draft operating agreement and sort of a more fulsome update at the July 19th Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities meeting. As I think that has been well distributed, the vaccine clinic, I believe that they're looking at vaccinating between 500 and 700. If it has been confirmed that they're going to try to get 700 at the Meridian Center on July 4th between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. And with respect to appointment booking details can be found on our website. Just wanted to sort of indicate that the building department has been extremely busy this year with 95 building permits issued to date, and that the CBO indicates that we have exceeded last year's total construction value and building permit fees as of right now. So, very good news. With respect to pools and day camps, I guess I'll indicate that the day camp interest has been somewhat overwhelming, and we received 160 applications, and we had only 60 available spots. So first priority went to township residents in filling those 60 spots. With respect to pool staffing, the instructor course has been completed, and this week there will be the NLS lifeguard certification. So subject to all the those participating being successful in the certification, we should be reasonably set for the summer. With this particular year, there have been a few lifeguards that, with a little bit of the uncertainty, have looked to maintain their other summer employment so that they will be working sort of part-time lifeguarding this summer. Just on a note, which I recognize that we're only at the end of June, but we're working on the August ice rentals, and as of right now, we're looking to plan to open for Saturday, August 7th at the Meridian Center. With respect to operations public works, roadside mowing, the first cut of approximately 190 lane kilometers of the township has been completed. Hardtop maintenance, approximately 8 tons of coal patch applied to various roads in the month of June. Roadside weed control program has been completed through the counties. Under equipment, the brush head has been ordered for the excavator, and the expected delivery date is early July. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we should have the sidewalks inspected within the village of Cardinal and Spencerville. Operations, environmental services, mostly routine operations. Under municipal drains, we have had a request for maintenance with respect to the Ferguson drain, and we will be bringing a report forward at the July Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities meeting. With respect to the fire department under HR, I'm pleased to announce that the fire chief has been appointed as an alternate fire coordinator for Leeds and Grenville. The fire coordinator is responsible for establishing and maintaining county mutual aid plan, coordinate assistance when required, and communicate with the Provincial Emergency Operations Center and other duties assigned by the Office of the Fire Marshal. The county coordinator is Chief Granahan from Rita Lakes, and the other alternate is Chief With respect to fleet, the Dodge Ram has been ordered to replace truck 8. It's been upgraded to a 2022 model. However, the ETA is not available from the manufacturer at this stage. And I think as a positive light, which we're all aware of, that we will be moving to step 2 of the roadmap to reopen at 12:01 a.m. on Wednesday, June 30th.
So, thank you very much. Mr. Grant, and I'm going to start with Councillor Dillabaugh and go around the table for questions. Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple. One, the zoning bylaws, we have the open house August 4th. Can we make sure we get some maybe posters up to put into the Legion and into the halls and into our the Beacon newspaper? If we can, starting whenever the Beacon does their circulation and continue with that.
So that's a question of public relations and advertising, and I would like, I echo your comments. I'd like to see this public meeting advertised as widely as possible. So if we could get something in the Beacon, I'd appreciate it as well. I know we have a budget for that kind of thing. And we're being very generous here, in my opinion. It appears to me that there will be, it says Cardinal Legion 3 to 5, South Ed Rec Center 6:30 to 8:30. So that's 2 on the 4th. August the 5th at the municipal office from 10 to 12. And then virtual, I assume that that'll be from here from 1 to 3. So that's 4 opportunities for public to attend the zoning bylaw review meeting and ask questions and seek clarifications and make comments.
That's correct, Mr.
And one of the other things that we requested was that there would be a fulsome effort made to solicit and record public comments so that they become part of the record, and they have to be, and those comments or concerns have to be addressed if possible, or at least listened to. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. And Waterfront Canteen says we can continue the busy times. Is that with our new hours too? Is that, or is it just Saturday, Sunday that he sent, Mr. Spencer? Or is that with our new extended hours on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Through
Thursday, Friday, sorry.
through the mayor, still the weekends seem to be the busier time.
And roadside mowing, we've got approximately 190 kilometers of township roadside ditches mowed. Great to see. How many kilometers do we have in our new bush hog that was that we purchased for the high hole? How many kilometers have we got with that so far to date?
So through the mayor, that brush head has been ordered, but it hasn't been received yet. So
So we have 0.
as of right now, we only have upwards to go.
Thank you.
But there are 2 things there.
But why is it
There's the
so?
mower and then there's the brush head.
Yeah, no, the rush head.
The brush head reaches up. The mower cuts the grass.
No, the rush head, I'm talking about it hooks onto the high hole, takes out the big stumps and cleans it all out.
So the brush head will be able to clean it behind guardrails or places that are hard to reach, and also do some of that trimming of lighter brush up higher on some of that.
How come so late? When did we order that last January? Or in our budget, April, I guess.
So through the mayor, we were a few weeks after the passing of the budget before we got around to getting that ordered, and like anything right now, it's we're unfortunately into some delays.
Thank you.
Councillor Campbell.
Yes, thank you. I just have a couple. I just want to go back to the zoning bylaw review, and I hope it's made very, very clear that any resident of the township can attend any one of these meetings, whether it's convenient for them in the afternoon or in the evening or morning or whatever. So once again, good job on that. The next item I have is on pools, and I see we're instituting a swim test for all applicants to the public swimming, or at least I'm reading it. All participants will be required to perform a swim test upon first entry. why are we bringing that into effect? We've never done that in the past that I'm aware of. And I'm just quite curious about that.
So through the mayor, if I'm not mistaken, this is a health unit requirement for this season.
Because it doesn't have anything to do with COVID?
It does.
Okay. All right, okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Do you all wait till the last step, Mayor?
Nope, good.
Councilor Hunter.
From the zoning, I guess we're all going to set to it for a while here. I have just one concern. Our virtual Zoom meeting. Would we not, say that municipal office, would we not be better to be running that out of the office at the ingredient center with the way the Zoom goes down here? If we have any number of people wanting to get on here, it's gonna be awful frustrating if it keeps going down every time they're trying to ask questions. And I know for the clinic, it's been tested down there and found excellent for thing. It's on Zoom, so I don't see that it makes much difference whether it's at the office here or we held it down there with guaranteed connections on. I know how frustrating it is for me here when the presentation was down the middle, so I can imagine for the ratepayers, they're trying to ask a question, all of a sudden they get cut off in the middle, but have to wait 5 minutes for it to come back up. But I know maybe we have to transport some of our papers and stuff back down there, but I just think for the public's sake and for our sake, because I assume most of us likely want to be sitting in to listen to it there. That's just something I think we should maybe look at. One of the other questions I had, when we get, I know I had a couple of, I spoke to our facility manager and the day camps and stuff, and I know I had a couple of residents that was upset because they got in first and they couldn't book all 3 sessions through, and I explained to them that we only had limited space here and everybody had to get a chance to get in. One person just putting their first one in couldn't be book all 3 swim tests and all 3 day camp things through, but I know it's a little upsetting for some relevant residents that have been traditionally having 2 or 3 booked in all their swim things, because in most years when we're full, the mayor knows from other ones, lots of kids got 2 or 3 free swimming lessons because we didn't have them filled up. This year, when our pool staff is limited and stuff, and the numbers are limited, and our day camps are the same, we're only about 25% or something of our normal. I hope that our facility manager credit for being forward-thinking on this and making sure that as many could get a shot at it as good, instead of just being first come, first served, that thing fill them up. I know it's a little upsetting maybe with some of the first ones in, but it's kind of like when you go to the grocery store and there's 50 things of toilet paper there, but they only let you take one. But I've just made a comment there, and one other on our fleet management for our fire department there. We've upgraded to a 2022. Is this still going to come in under the budget that we've set? I believe we set a budget there of 30,000 we set on that for.
That's it. Mr. Mayor, I can't recall the exact amount, but the fire chief's here. Do you recall, Chief?
Certainly, yeah, through the mayor. I believe we budgeted 40,000. We came in just over, I believe it was 41 and change. And the upgrade to the 22 is going to be at the same price. They're honoring the same price. I probably should put that in my report, but they moved to a 22 at the same price.
When that, Mayor, I thought when we budgeted that, when that came through there, we implemented that we wanted that drop down. We were looking to get instead of a new truck, a 2020 or 2021 coming back off short-term lease or something. We're going to use the money we've got out of the van to top it up for 30,000. We pick up now the brand new 2022 that we budgeted for.
And I can't recall the detail of that discussion.
Yeah, through the mayor, I'd have to look back through my notes.
Can you help us out here? There was a relationship between the price that we got for a used vehicle and how we decided to purchase this vehicle.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, I do remember the conversation about the trucks and when the van sold for good money at that Gov Deals, and we talked about selling the existing truck at that time. I think that the used vehicle discussion is.
Anyway, I think the key to your, briefing note is that the 2022 model is coming to us at the same price as the 2021 model, which we had already approved. Is that what you're saying to us?
That is correct.
So I think that sort of wraps it up.
I remember after going, because I don't remember ever going forward to council, the three purchase of the truck, we've asked 2 or 3 times, but we got a truck. They said, no, I don't remember any purchase order coming forward to purchase it. So
Oh, okay, so maybe we can have an update on that, exactly where that stood.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor.
Because it wasn't, I think it would have been at the capital discussions. I mean, I'm sure that that's where the discussion would have occurred.
Correct. So at the budget, there was 40,000 towards the replacement of that vehicle. And the delegation of authority is up to 50,000 from the CIO with the treasurer. So with that amount coming in at 40,000 plus whatever for HST, that would have been that delegation of authority approval.
Of the, because it was slightly over the 40.
Correct.
Okay,
And under the 50.
and under the 50. Okay. So that's the explanation there. Anything else, Councillor Hunter?
no,
Okay, so I have a few questions of my own then, thank you. So I'm going to start at page 234 again with the zoning bylaw. And so first thing I'll go back to Councillor Hunter's comment about the Zoom meeting. Is there any possibility that we will have improved service at this office by August the 5th?
The mayor, I am thinking unlikely at that stage, but we can certainly adjust the location of where we're holding that Zoom meeting.
Okay, so I guess my question is coming down this way because I did announce at a previous Zoom meeting that Mr. Zoom had been fired from the township, was no longer a township employee. And so my question goes like this. I don't know where the staff discussions are with Bell relative to getting fiber optic service into this building and our adjacent buildings. I don't know where those discussions are. I've left them up to this point in time at the staff level. However, in my opinion, the fact that it hasn't occurred up to this point in time is leading me to believe that perhaps this needs some political push here. And, you know, as you know, I have a good contact at EORN that can make these things happen. And if it's at the stage where it needs a political push, I'm more than happy to contact my contact at EORN, who will put pressure on Bell and get this done sooner rather than later. So I'm putting that off out there for another short period of time. And I've asked the staff to keep me apprised of just when we might expect an improvement in the service, because I'm not prepared to wait that much longer. We have people on Zoom tonight, but we can't see who they are because they can't turn on their videos, because if they do, the system will go destabilized. So let me know if this needs political push here. Now I'm going now to the day camp issue on payment. Do we not have the flexibility, and using today's colloquialisms, are we not able to pivot fast enough to introduce another day camp to meet some of the demand that has been left unserved here?
Mr. Mayor, we've certainly coordinated the day camp to work with the swimming lesson program.
Yes, but we're only holding the day camp in Johnstown, I understand.
That is correct.
And swimming lessons will take place in Johnstown. Could we not mount another day camp or a series of day camps in Cardinal? I mean, with 160 applications, it tells me that there's demand in the marketplace.
Mr. Mayor, there's demand, but I do not believe that there is enough students to fill that, to fill the what we would call the supervisor role in those days.
So it's a shortage of staff,
It is a shortage of students.
and we can't find a way of dealing with that?
We have been working and juggling to get the staff to operate the pool and the day camp that we currently have. So
Well, going to that pool staff thing, and which is the report at the bottom of in the bottom box, it says typically, and the word used is only, and I don't understand the use of that word in that sentence. Typically, we only hire 10. However, this year we have 5. Is the only in the wrong place? It says, I mean, if we normally have 10 and now this year we have 5, we only have 5. So my question is, exactly how many do we have total and part-time guards here?
so we would have 12.
We have 12.
So typically we would hire 10,
Yeah.
but we've increased it to 12 because
Okay.
we have 5. So my apologies in the wording of that sentence or a couple sentences.
Okay, so we have 12, but 5 of them are only part-timers.
Correct.
Ah, okay, so that explains that. Okay, so we have 7 full-timers and 5 part-timers. Ah, okay, so that's the best we could get out of the kids this year.
You're pretty lucky, Mayor, because talking to them today at the pool, that we've got 2 longtime retired swimming instructors that took their recertified and come back to help Mike out to teach it. We wouldn't even have that many.
Seriously.
He talked them in, these are women that have come back to recertified to help out the township to fill in here, because the kids just aren't there that are taking the certification to do swimming lessons, so.
Oh, is that right? Eh?
I'm talking to a couple other ones I know even in the Ottawa area, because they're having trouble getting lifeguards for their pools and stuff, for the extra summer programs that they're running there. Everybody's in this pinch, so.
Okay, so back to the CAO. Was the reason for not putting additional day camps in place directly related to the fact that we couldn't staff the pools? I mean, you can run a summer day camp without pools, can't you?
Correct, but we cannot run a summer day camp without the students to supervise the kids at the day camp.
Okay,
So we're having trouble getting enough summer students.
oh, but we're managing to fill up the facilities staff with summer students. Are we not? Did we add?
Yes, that is correct, but really 2 completely separate functions.
Oh, yeah, I understand that,
Right.
but we
So,
found enough for there.
yes. Yes, I'm not, we have, from my understanding, the facilities manager has pursued various options with respect to staffing, and we are, unfortunately, this year, we are basically exhausted.
Okay, all right, I'll let that go. So now I'm at page 236, where we're talking about the roadside weed spraying program. And the roadside weed control program is completed by the county's contractor. So if there is any feedback at all on that program to the staff, I would like to know about it, because there is a push coming at county council to modify that program, if not cancel it. And I know that from the point of view of our farmers, our farmers appreciate the fact that we look after our ditches in our area adjacent to their fields, their tillable fields. So just keep me aware on what the feedback is on this weed control program, please. Because I want to be prepared at county council and be knowledgeable about what I'm talking about. And so that's that issue. And I think I had one more. Okay, that's been dealt with. Okay, so those are my questions. And unless somebody else has another round, I'm going to put the motion on the floor. Councilor Hunter.
Mr. Mayor, just to respond to you about the roadside spraying. I did have one resident spraying. I talked to our CEO. He went through and contacted their one in charge at the counties. I believe he called her and talked to her and explained to her why they were doing it. She was quite appreciative that we were mowing our ditches and back, but she was upset that we're having counties spray the weeds along, especially along the guardrails that she thought that the counties used to whippersnap them all along there and they're spraying them. She wants somebody to call back, and I understand that one from the counties that looked after it did call her back and explain to her the cost implications and why it was being done that way. She contacted Safe Nation as well, and they informed her that they're all licensed in where they were spraying, they approved this information, but rivers and creeks and stuff, they didn't spray
Right.
over them. So I haven't heard back from her, so I assume she was maybe not happy with the response, but at least she got the response back why it was being done that way. So.
Okay, so thank you for that. And just the council, just report this way. Any individual, we advertise when we're going to have a spraying program, we generally give a month or so in advance. Any individual that doesn't want us spraying in front of their property is welcome to either post their own no spray sign, or alternatively, the county has a number of no spray signs available. Now, I had a request from one individual for a no spray sign, but by the time he made the request to me, the spraying had already been conducted on his street. However, nevertheless, I picked up a number of no spray signs and delivered them to him, so that on our next spray program, he can post them at the edges of his property and we won't spray that property. The other thing that council members should be aware of is that when we spray our roadside ditches, it's not a continual spray from one end of the road to the other. The person that operates the sprayer is a knowledgeable weed control expert, and that person is sitting on a truck and he has the eyes to be able to determine that this is a patch of wild parsnip and it needs to be sprayed, but for the next 200 yards I see nothing but grass and we're not going to spray there. So it's not a full spray program, it's a spot spray program. So councilors get questions about it, remember that it's a spot spray program. All right, any further discussion on the CAO's report? Hearing none, I'm about to move on. Those in favor of approving the CAO's report? Motion is carried, thank you. And now I'm at item number 13 on the agenda, which is council inquiries or notices of motion. And Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want an update at all of our docks down at the Legion Way.
Through the chair of the CAO.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I believe that all of the docks that can be put in at this time are installed.
Can be, through the
Go ahead.
to the CEO, when he said, when the CEO said it can be, I don't understand can be.
So through the mayor, I believe there are two of the older style docks that, based on the current water level, are not able to be what I would call safely installed, because they would be on bottom on one part, and so you would be on quite a lead, is my understanding. I don't have all of the technical background on that, but rest assured that staff understand that as soon as those docks can be put in, we will certainly put those in.
I didn't realize we have docks that were still out of the water. I've been getting a fair amount of hassle from an individual about that.
There is two. And they're being used. If we put 2 more docks there, it's gonna be used. I was down yesterday, we got a ton of water. That's my opinion. To put those docks in.
Where are they, where does these docks normally
Right
go?
Across from the Legion.
Okay, so on the opposite, and the pavilion, the canteen?
Yeah, pavilion,
No,
the covered.
Oh, the covered pavilion. Oh, okay,
Yes.
all right, those locations. Did you want in there?
yeah, I just want to jump in on that one, and while I completely respect that, the ramps, the installation and the way the ramps are held in place restricts the ability of those docks to go out further in the water. But my thought is that, is there not a way, I mean, they're floating docks. Is there not a way that either the ramp location on some of them can be made to go lower? I mean, if we're looking at a year's worth of low water, having floating docks sitting on shore because there isn't enough water doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. There has to be a way to they float. So it's the ramp that I see as the issue. They're definitely sitting on bottom at the boat ramp. I accept that as the way it is, but to me, maybe we need to look at maybe putting some more posts in so that the ramp moves closer to the water so the docks actually fully float. Like there has to be a way, and I'm disappointed that we haven't had a way.
Well, and I'll reiterate that to the CAO. I mean, the traditional locations where they were last year may not be the perfect locations for them this year if the water is still a bit low, but we can change the locations. I mean, they don't have to be directly opposite the pavilion or directly opposite the Legion. If we move them, I know that as you go closer towards the canteen, there's less of a drop from the bank to the water level. So I mean, we can move them. And on the other side, down at the ramp side, now all of those docks down at the ramps were floating the last time I was there. And they were easily accessible. But I don't, and that's what I don't understand. I didn't realize we had some that weren't in. I thought the reason that any docks that were left at the public works yard were there because they were unsafe. Now you're telling me that's not the issue.
No.
It's not that the docks are unsafe, it's just that we haven't been able to find a way to put them in the water. So
I'm sure we could
I'm
find a way
hopeful,
to.
like I said, I think we can leave this with the CAO for another week. Hope we can.
So, just for clarity, Mr. Mayor, is it my understanding that modifications in cost associated with modifying those docks, one way, shape, or form, that the end result is that council want those docks in?
I think that that's the way I'm reading some of the discussion here.
I'd certainly like to hear some options.
I think we need a price before we just go ahead and say whatever the
Like,
price of them in the water.
Well,
don't
I mean,
think
we've
there's that-
allocated $1 million of budget to the facilities department and.
1.8,
Pardon?
1.8.
1.8. I think we can leave it up to staff to find room within their budgets to put these things in. I mean, we're not talking thousands of dollars here. We're just talking, find a mechanism, find a way. And I hate to bring this up while we're on this discussion, but did that other issue get solved, Mr. CAO, the issue of the bad drop at the end of the concrete boat ramp? That was brought to my attention again, I think, late Friday afternoon.
My understanding is that is correct.
Okay, good. Thanks very much. Okay, so I think let's just Councillor Dillabaugh, can we leave this with staff for another week? We meet again next week.
Yes, I still have another one down there.
Go ahead.
I have, out of 11 picnic tables under the pavilion, four out of 11 got to be repaired, replaced, or removed. There's splinters, there's two, the tops are all rotted out. So you can, staff can go down and take a peek, but there should be at least 4 removed or repaired. It's unsafe, and I'd like to get that done before July 1. Before, I know it's only 2 days, but at least go down and see if they can at least take the tops off and maybe put another 2x4. They're rotted on top,
So it's,
corners.
so it's the top surface.
Tops and a couple benches too, where you sit, so, but there's 4 really bad that should be looked at.
Okay, so 2 issues
If we
there,
could.
docks and tables. And going now to Councillor Cameron.
Yes, just an inquiry regarding the skunk issue down at the near the beach area. It's still there, quite an odor. I'm just afraid that somebody or someone's animal is going to
Run afoul of the skunk.
well, get into some kind of altercation.
Has anybody seen it?
Oh, yes,
So now this is in the,
yes.
this is in the area of the dive site, right?
No, this is in the area of the beach at Richardson's Point.
Oh,
The skunk has moved from the area at the dive site down east to the beach area. And I know we had last week or the week before, we had done some tree work in around there. And the odor was pretty bad at that time. I was a little worried that the staff who were doing the tree trimming might run into a problem. But I'm just a little concerned that there's going to be an incident down there.
okay, leave that with staff. Any other council inquiries or notices of motion? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hunter? No, okay, I'm moving on. Item number 14 is the mayor's report. We do have a number of things to report. So first of all, thanks to the CAO for following up on the OPP board submission, which was submitted today with the support of the 4 municipal councils, 1 missing. I think you all received word about the guide rail contractor, and that was brought up as an issue to be taken to county council. So I received word today that the contract has been signed and the contractor will be in the counties on July the 6th, starting on July the 6th, work to be completed by July 26th. So obviously he has quite a number of spots in the county where those beam type guardrails have to be replaced. Now, I just want to report, because this is a public meeting, a little bit of the progress with regard to the job site challenge. So council members are all aware that we met with Newmark, the international site selector that's been hired by the province to help the province select the final 3 winners of the Ontario Job Site Challenge. We met with Newmark, Mr. Greg Wasmendorf and his team. And Mr. Wasmendorf was obviously quite familiar with our application. He did allow us to present our PowerPoint presentation at the beginning of the meeting. It was a meeting that had been requested by them so that they could provide information to us as to what else they needed and what degree of detail they needed. So I was pleased at the end of the PowerPoint presentation that they said, thank you very much, because by seeing the visuals, it puts a different look to the project compared to what they had been reading just on paper submission. So one of the main issues that Mr. Wasmendorf advised us that we need to do additional work is this. There are other properties on the land that we've nominated which we don't own, And it's important that we begin negotiations or discussion with those property owners. And I'm going to speak to council about that in camera at the in-camera meeting, which will follow this meeting. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but that was one issue. And there are a number of others. I want to also report that we were very pleased to have MP Barrett and MPP Clark attend at the waterfront walkway on Thursday at 10 o'clock for the official announcement of the ICIP funding for the walkway. Now, this is one of the very few programs that I've come across in my days that we were told that we had the money. We could tender the program project, we could start the construction, we could complete the construction, but we couldn't announce the money until the feds and the province were ready for the official announcement. So we're very pleased that that MP Barrett and MPP Clark made that announcement at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, and that the walkway was in use and was finished when we were there making the announcement. And I'm going to say that visit provided us with an opportunity to have some additional discussions with regard to the job site challenge. So moving on, just for the interest of council, we will be doing photo ops tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at Ingredient and 12 o'clock at Greenfield, which will be their check presentations. Each of those corporate citizens is providing $5,000 for our swim program, and these will be ceremonial check presentations for photo ops. So any members of council that can get themselves to the Ingredient Center outside at the gatehouse, or Greenfield at the gatehouse, Ingredient at 10 o'clock, Greenfield at 12 for the photo op. And I think our staff will be there to take the pictures, and I haven't contacted the other papers, the Recorder and Times or the Beacon, mainly because it's, I didn't want to give them another short notice thing. Moving on your desk tonight, you'll see the little pamphlet from the Battle of the Windmill that was prepared by the Friends of the Battle of the Windmill. And that's a result of the little donation that we made through our dance program to Friends of the Battle of the Windmill. And just moving on again to the COVID-19 vaccination clinic on Sunday, July the 4th, 10 to 5. I want to thank Councillor Hunter for his work in organizing the volunteers, and Deputy Mayor Deschamps for his involvement as well in getting that community vaccination clinic up and running. It is, as I'm sure we will all learn, not a simple thing, but certainly the medical officer of health is extremely appreciative to get this kind of community support to bring those community clinics to the village of Cardinal. And again, the fact that they're planning to do between 500 and 700 vaccinations tells me that the whole thing is worthwhile. And two other items. First of all, an update from HFI Pyrotechnics. I had a conversation with Mr. John Witherspoon this morning concerning HFI. I'll speak more about it in the in-camera session, but I just want to say that I'm extremely pleased to note that HFI has now hired 20 additional employees since the last time we spoke to them. They've managed to keep all of their staff working during this entire period of time. They're doing antigen testing twice a week on all of their staff. They have the results within 15 minutes for each of their staff members. And they're still wearing masks, and everybody is continuing to the production activities at HFI Pyrotechnics. And Mr. Witherspoon has indicated that he would like to invite council to attend another site visit at HFI Pyrotechnics as soon as the COVID restrictions ease to the stage 3 level. And he says, we've made so many changes, you won't recognize the place, Pat. Our contracts are very ambitious, and we're working hard to meet the fulfillment. And then one last thing, concerns the CDC meeting, and I'm asking the indulgence of the deputy mayor for this one. And with your approval, Mr. Chair of the CDC, I'd like to use the CDC meeting coming up, and depending on your analysis of what the agenda looks like, I would like to use that meeting to introduce the Cedar Grove site videos and PowerPoint presentations that have been prepared to advertise and promote that site. And I'd like to do it at the CDC because we have some community volunteer members there. And with your indulgence, I would also like the other 4 volunteer members. We have 2 on admin finance and 2 on public works. I'd like them to be invited to watch those issues as well. Okay, so that's the mayor's report. I didn't ask for the motion to approve the mayor's report. Deputy Mayor, I think you have it.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council receives the mayor's report as presented.
Very good. Motion is on the floor. Questions, if any? Hearing none, I'm about to call a question on the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And the mayor is off the hook. Questions? All right, now I'm going to item number 15, which is the question period. So the clerk advised us prior to the meeting that there were some members of the public present on Zoom. And so this is the question period for any members of the public to raise questions in the chat box or by turning on their videos. So to the clerk, have you had any indication of questions coming from the public? No indication, and I'll just say to the screen, I can't see anybody on the screen, but if there is anybody on Zoom that wants to ask a question, you can turn on your video and we'll answer any questions that pertain to this day's agenda. I see somebody's hand up there, but I can't see a face. Ah, there's an individual. Is that Mr. Ward? Mr. Ward, you're muted right now.
It is Mr. Ward. How are you tonight, sir?
Okay, now your voice is coming through very distorted.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, let me see what I can do to fix that. There, how's that?
That's much better. Thank you.
Is that better?
Go ahead, please.
Is better? Okay, thank you. Oh, and I lost my headphone here. Okay. Sorry about that. So I just one question. I guess firstly, I'd like to thank the mayor and Councillor Cameron for feeling the public deserves some time to officially react to the at-large bylaw proposal. I was surprised to hear that this discussion was still progressing based on the reactions of the public that I'm seeing already. I have done a bit of research with several studies, and I do find I can't find anywhere that benefits for rural communities such as mine would benefit. With towns such as Aurora going back to a ward system and Temescami redefining its ward system to ensure it better represents all parts of the community. Can you tell me what measures will be firmly put in place in an at-large system to avoid discriminating against rural communities and to ensure that they do not lose their voice as has happened in other communities?
Well, with the elimination of the ward system, all members of council are elected at large. So that means that every member of the public gets to vote on who exactly they feel are the best candidates for mayor, deputy mayor, and the 3 positions of councillor. I mean, every member votes equally. Now,
I'm aware of that, yes, sorry. But what I do see, and I have seen results for people in studies, is that, you know, your minorities like the rural areas, for instance, of our township will lose representation from those. So what are we doing to put measures in place to help make sure that doesn't happen if we do adopt this system?
Well, well, again, I have to come back to it. That's a perception that may or may not be a reality. Because, I mean, right now we have 3 wards. It isn't even a requirement that an individual live in the ward in which he runs. So that's another argument for doing away with the ward system. So, I mean, once the ward system is gone, there's no alternative to replacing it to guarantee any representative from any place. It's just, it's all members at large, and, you know, hopefully the public makes the choice based on who presents who makes the best presentations of themselves in the public arena during the election campaign.
Okay. I believe there's another hand up, by the way, as well.
Okay, now I don't see another hand at this point. To the clerk, do you see a hand? Sorry, the clerk, I can't hear you.
John Piper has his hand up here.
Okay, so Mr. John Piper, I believe you have your hand up, and I can't see you, but I understand you have a question.
Can you hear me?
I think you're muted, Mr. Piper.
I don't think so.
Oh, there, got you now.
Got me now?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. My concern, first of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and councillors at large for conducting the meeting. Thank you even more for not doing the 3rd reading on the abolition of the ward system. I believe that this is important enough that there should be a public meeting for it. You may disagree, I'm guessing you probably do. But what I foresee is very simply this, that Johnstown and Cardinal will between them have 3 councillors, and the community, the larger part in terms of area of the community will have no representation. And, you know, there were a couple of items that were talked about tonight, for instance, the spraying. Well, you know something? The people in Johnstown don't understand the spraying like the people on Crowder Road, on Rock Road, and on Ventnor Road, which is where the farmers live who make up the large area of this township.
And they are on Mr. Gunter.
And they are the ones that need the representation, and I worry that they're not going to get it. They are the people, you know, that made this township so darn attractive for all us city slickers to move out here and create havoc. And we have to.
So Mr.
We
Piper,
have to be mindful of that.
I have to get you to Mr. Piper, I have to get you to a question.
Okay, so the question, there is no question, there's an answer. The answer is, could we please have a public meeting?
Well, so the answer to the question is yes. I mean, there are 3 public meetings between now and the time when the bylaw will come up for 3rd reading. The 3 meetings have already been indicated during the CAO's report. And I believe they're the next 3 Mondays in a row, starting on July the 5th, July the 12th, I think it would be next one, July the 19th, and then the actual council meeting on at the end of July, which I think would be the 28th again. Is that right? 26th. 26th. So those are the 3 opportunities that the public has to attend meetings as delegations and make presentations. I mean, all they have to do is identify to the clerk that they want to come to one of those meetings to make a presentation. Those are the public meetings. We don't hold a public meeting for every bylaw that we pass. And I mean, I know that this one is a little bit different. But, and you know, that's why we, Councillor Cameron and I felt it should be delayed 30 days. But in 30 days, it will come before council for 3rd reading. And, you know, the members of the public have between now and that time to attend at either one of those three meetings, make their voices heard, or put whatever pressure they can mount on additional members of council. I mean, that's the process.
And I understand the process. Thank you very much. It's very difficult to mobilize any sort of group over 3 or 4 weeks. Is there any chance of extending it another month?
Well, I mean, the only way it gets extended another month is if on the 26th of July, which is the council July meeting, and the bylaw comes up for third reading, there's the only possibility of extending it would be for the mover and the seconder of third reading to defer that issue for a month. But failing that, if that motion comes on the floor to approve third reading and it passes, the bylaw becomes effective as of the date of passing of the bylaw, and the elimination of the ward system will be in effect for the 2022 elections. And by the way, by the way, the one thing I want to correct here, just so that there's no misunderstanding, and that is that Councillor has, starting in about February or March, at a number of meetings during council inquiries and notices of motion, has put forward the notice of motion that he intended to bring this issue up as a notice of motion. And he indicated that it would be in May or June, and it came forward in May. So, I mean, it isn't as if this is last minute thing, because he has continuously over those meetings between February, March, April, he has continuously put that concept forward as a notice of motion.
He's put the concept forward, you're absolutely right. But there have been many concepts put forward over the years that have not been acted upon. So it really doesn't become anything urgent till just today, as a matter of fact, in my opinion.
Well, and I understand, I understand that, I understand your summary of that, because it tends to happen that the public doesn't become engaged in an issue until the last minute. That's
exactly.
you know, that's
exactly. You know, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I hope that council does not take the route where you avoid talking about it. I think it's important enough that the public does take part in this, because right now, I bet if you asked 95% of the people, they wouldn't have a clue what was happening. They wouldn't know.
Okay, so I have to, Mr. Piper, I have to, I mean, we allow questions during question period, but really not speeches. So I think you've had your question, but I will respond one last time by saying this. I've had several inquiries from people. I've talked to them. I've explained to them what's going to happen on, and I've explained the process, just as I have to you tonight on behalf of council. And so that's where the issue is at this point in time. The other thing I would like to mention to you is this: all of our meetings, all of our committee meetings, and all of our council meetings are televised, just as this one is tonight, and they appear on our YouTube video channel within 3 or 4 days of this meeting. It's just a question of time, staff time, to go to another location where they can where the internet is sufficient speed that they can upload to the YouTube channel. So, you know, the public has every opportunity to view our meetings and understand what's going on and understand what's what and what the various shades of real are. So I don't know how else to phrase it. We are elected by the public to conduct the affairs of the township, and that's basically what we're doing, and trying to act in the best interest of all. So thank you very much.
And you know something?
Thank you very much for your question.
I'm not being.
I have to move on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you to you and Mr. Ward. We appreciate your interest. Okay, I'm moving on then, because we do have a closed session, and I'm calling on Councillor Cameron to move us into the closed session. And by the way, we will be going into closed session as provided by the Municipal Act, because we're discussing the purchase or pending acquisition or disposition of land. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps that municipal council proceeds into closed session at 8:20 p.m. in order to address a matter to, excuse me, section 239/2/C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, specific land bank job site challenge.
Thank you very much. Motion to go into closed session. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could we take 2-3 minutes?
Yeah, well, for sure.
Let's say 5 minutes.
We're off. We stopped recording.